All right, let's bring on Marcus Thompson. I've said this before in my career. My job is to tell you what I know, but I don't always need to know the why. Sometimes it's none of my business. The Andrew Wiggins situation is really none of my business. I know it's very serious, it's a family matter. What I was told, and now I have two people that have said it's really, really serious. The Warriors totally support him, but there is some doubt if he'll be available going forward. There's no certainty, there's real doubt. So let's bring in Marcus. You know a lot more than I do. I have been told it's extremely serious, and the Warriors completely respect his privacy. And so, again, that's none of my business. I'm not talking anybody's fam. That's none of my business. Let's talk about availability. You're reporting, you're sourcing, you're guessing. Is it a reasonable assumption that he would miss the regular season, but perhaps be a postseason participant?
It's possible. Depending on who you talk to, there's some people who expect him to be back. There's some people who don't want to put that on him, right? Like, hey, deal with what you got to do. We don't really want to pressure you, right? You got to handle this. The difficulty about that proposition of missing the regular season, come back from the playoffs, is who you getting. I mean, that's 2 months. 2 months
Yeah.
of no basketball. I doubt he's picked up a ball, right? I have to guess his conditioning wouldn't be great. So it would be a tall order to ask him, and then we don't know what his mental condition will be. We know this dude doesn't miss games. Like, he just doesn't. I mean, his first 6 years, he missed like 4 total games. Like, he doesn't miss games. So whatever it is, it's incredibly serious. Whatever it is, there's a locker room of dudes who want to win a championship who are like, ooh, this is bad. Like, you handle that. Like, we're not even mad. So I don't know how you come back from that in the middle of a playoff setting and produce. I mean, we've seen crazy things, but that would be a lot to ask.
All right, the NFL season is officially over. So we got March Madness coming up, final stretch of the NBA, the NHL season. Now is the time. You want tickets? Check out the Game Time app. It's the fastest growing ticket app. They got you covered. March Madness tickets, NBA tickets, playoff tickets, NHL tickets, Game Time. They also do comedy shows. They also do concerts. Anything you want to attend, check out the Game Time app. And right now, $20 off your first purchase. How? Download the Game Time app and use the redeem code Colin. Me, COLIN, $20 off your first tickets. Comedy, concerts, we got March Madness. You got to be at those games. NHL, NBA, final stretch run. The Game Time app, last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Yeah, I mean, they wanted Jonathan Kuminga perhaps to develop. He's very twitchy, very athletic, can be very forceful around the rim. They wanted him to develop. He doesn't have the touch. He's not the defensive player yet of Wiggins, but he's wildly athletic. But if you could get 12 minutes a night, he didn't do squat in the playoffs last year because Kerr didn't trust him yet. Do you think Steve
Yeah.
Kerr trusts him? Because Iggy now has an injury. How many minutes per night in a playoff game do you believe Steve Kerr would be comfortable with Jonathan Kuminga?
I don't really think he has a choice. I mean, the other option is a two-way guy that they're probably going to convert Anthony Lamb. So, I mean, geez, Kuminga was the number 7 pick. I do think he does a couple of things that the Warriors could use. Like, he's a ball pressure. He's good at that. So at some point they'll use him. I think it's somewhere between 12, 20 minutes, depending on how he plays, right? He'll probably get 12 baked in, maybe 15. If they're not good, especially in that second half, then he just won't go back to them. Like, that's kind of how Steve has been. If he's playing really well, if he's giving somebody problems, now you up it. Because they need it. They don't have a lot of other defensive options, right? Like, they don't have a lot of lockdown guys. I mean, here's the interesting part. Does Gary Payton II make it back? And how does that impact? Because if you don't get Wiggins and you don't have GP2, the only other guy who can do what they do is Dante DiVincenzo and Jonathan Kuminga. That's it. The rest is like, yo, I'm beating you off the dribble. So it's almost like, yo, what do you have to lose anyway? Just run them out there. If you don't win, you probably are the seventh seed anyway. So what did you expect?
Let's pivot back to Andrew Wiggins. And, again, I put it out there. I had a couple people tell me they doubted strongly he would return. And my takeaway is I believe people. Is it been an uncomfortable story for you because you are a journalist? You're a guy that is constantly looking to uncover things. When you wrote your KD book, Steph book, you gave me nuggets that I never knew. That's what you do. Has it been hard to cover it knowing it's intensely private? The organization's not going to let it out, but your job is to cover stuff and uncover stuff.
It hasn't been hard because this team just has 58 storylines all the time, right? So we can always fall back on, right about Steph, right about Klay, right about Draymond. But the difficulty is this is one of the rare situations where nobody's telling you anything. That's the difficulty, right? It's like they've really kind of closed ranks. And this is the same team where they had a videotape leak, right? Like an unprecedented leak of a practice punch. So I think they just got so fed up that they were like, this is one we're going to stop, right? And that to me is the most difficult part, where it's like you talk to people and the people who normally be like, hey man, I'm gonna tell you what's going on, don't write it. Even they're like, yeah, we're not telling you anything because just know it's bad. So in that sense, it's not difficult because, like, I mean, these are pros, man. They won championships. If there was a player who they thought should be on the court and wasn't on the court, they wouldn't know how to bite their tongue. Like Draymond would pop off on the volume, right? He'd be on volume sports. I'm like, why is this guy not playing? So when these dudes who are professionals at the highest level, right, who are winners, they're like, nah, man, this is bad. Like we support them, we rock with them. We're not gonna throw them under the bus or anything like that. It's easy to trust them because you kind of know who they are, you know what they are. But I haven't been. It's been a long time, Colin, since I couldn't find out like the inner details. You know what I'm saying? Like it's been a while, and that's a testament to Wiggins. Like Wiggins, he doesn't put himself out there like that, and that's just kind of been his deal. And some guys, like for most people, as you know, it's hard to shut people up. This whole industry runs on the fact that people don't know how to shut up, right? So for Wiggins, though, like he doesn't put himself out there like that. He's very private, and they are respecting it. And I respect them for that, right? Like I respect them for saying, nah, not in this situation. Because they've literally had fights in practice that we found out about. Literally.
Well, Klay Thompson's having his best year in maybe 6. He is absolutely great. Jordan Poole, DiVincenzo, Steph Curry had 50 against the Clippers. So it's a team that's guard heavy. And if things don't work out with the movement of Wiseman and Wiggins, they're a small team. Yes. And they're not going to be as good defensively. So, I've said this before. I've thrown this out there, is that because Steph can still be on any night the best player in the league, on any night against anybody. Klay has rebounded with an all-star level second half in performance. Draymond is still a catalyst. Wiggins, we presume, would come back. I'll throw it out there. If they got into the playoffs and got pushed around by a big, forget Embiid or Giannis, I'm talking Jokic. They got pushed around a little bit by a big. They have the arsenal of guards now, especially scoring guards. They're not moving Steph. But Jordan Poole, they've got enough guys they could move. This team, I still believes we got a championship left. Could you see them going out and getting, and I'll throw a big at you. You don't have to, he'll give you 22 points a night without designing a single play for him. Anthony Davis. And just say, listen, we know you're not giving us 38 minutes, and we know you're not giving us 82 games. We're not asking that. And because I look at the Warriors and I think to myself, right now I've lost confidence without Wiggins and Iggy. I don't think they can get to the NBA Finals. I don't. Now, the break is, of course, Marcus, KD's out. And, that's a big thing, and I don't trust the Clippers. Let's start with this. Have you lost confidence in this team going forward, getting to the finals?
Yeah, no question. They can't win on the road. They lose to teams they should beat. I always thought it was going to be tough anyway. Like repeating is not easy. Like it's not. That's
Right.
why not a lot of teams do it. So even if they brought back the same team, it's not like when they had KD and it was like, all right, we're about to repeat. Like normally it gets harder the second year, but now I think they'll upset somebody, right? That third series though will be tough because whatever they do, it's going to be on Steph, it's going to be on Klay, right? It's going to be on Draymond. And now it's like you fight through one series, right? You upset somebody, you get another series. That's going to be harder. Now you can start to see it take toll. Because keep in mind, they've been playing hard all year. Now it's not like 2018, 2019,
Right.
where they were chilling, knowing like, all right, we're here for a finals run. Like, no, they've been trying to beat teams. So the difficulty I see is they've been putting in a lot of work, and on the back end that catches up. We've seen this before. 2016, they chased 73, got up 3-1, and the legs are gone, right? And that's obviously a better setting for them, but it's just tough to envision them winning 3 series to get to the finals and then winning a fourth one. Like, that's a lot. I just think they need to have a good showing, and if they knock off Jokic or knock off KD, that's something real. Now you talk about, all right, Steph's still legit. Who we keeping out of Draymond and Klay? Or maybe Draymond's like, yo, I'm out. I got to opt out. Somebody wants to pay me a max, I'm out. Those are the decisions. The reason I don't think they'll go Anthony Davis, the owner wants to go young. That was the whole Wiseman thing. I don't want a bunch of 35-year-olds. So when they fall off, we're like a lottery team again. He doesn't want to do that. He wants somebody young. He wants to swap out Steph and make it a seamless transition to the next guy. So I think he'll want a guy who's young and ready to play. He wanted Steve Kerr to play the young guys this year. So like I don't think he's going 30 plus. He might go 25. That might be the compromise. Instead of 21,
Right.
it'll be 25 instead. But it won't be another 30 something unless he just decides let's ride the wheels till they fall off with Steph and them.
So, most have observed and speculated that the Draymond Poole punch created a bit of a rift and a chasm between young and old guys in the locker room. And they note, and I think with some accuracy, that it's a bad road team. And on the road is where unity factors in. There's almost no explanation, Marcus, for being abysmal. Shit, they're as bad as the Rockets and the Orlando Magic and Detroit on the road. Do you
Yes.
believe it does feel like this is maybe a clickier team? The gap between young and old is sizable,
Oh, I thought that was true from the beginning. I mean, it's like literally like a Red Sea in between them, right? Like you
right?
got the old heads who won championships, and then you have like the homeroom squad, right? You got the Hall of Fame, and you got the homeroom. They got 6 guys who like haven't done much before in the league, and then you have this super high bar of championship standard, right? It was already like that. I mean, just tangibly, just thinking about who they are at their ages, right? Like, I mean, Steph is the nicest guy in the league, right? He gets along with everybody, but he's 35. He's got like kids and stuff. Like, he's got IRA accounts and business. Like, he's not hanging out with 21-year-olds. Like, he'll do, he can put his arm around the guy in the locker room and all that, but got teenage daughters. They just don't have anything in common. And you could look in the locker room and you could say, this team looks like they're having a bit of fun. There's some like gelling that you probably didn't think happened after somebody got rocked in training camp, right? But what you can't really there's this like intangible part of the punch that you can't quantify, right? Like what happens if they don't have that and they get off to a start and the chemistry's great and now they don't lose 5 straight road games to start the season. It's almost like not saving money. You know what I'm saying? You don't lose money, but you don't know what you would have done if you would have invested it, right? Like so we don't know how that impacted the season. All we know is they got off to a rough start. It was kind of a mess, and it felt like it set a tone for the season. So even if they're fine now, right? Even if they're like they've overcome it and gotten through it, there was a cost that they paid that we can kind of see now. And I think it began on the road. First out the bat, 5-game road trip. They losing to Charlotte and Orlando, right? Like, and they're playing like Steph and them. It's not like they had a bunch of young guys. They weren't able to close against bad teams to start. That 0-5 road trip set a tone. So I think there is an intangible like cost from that, even if they might have gotten through it in a sense.
Well, Steve Kerr played, GM'd, broadcasted, and coached. He's got a lot of money. He's got a lot of interests. It could be surfing. It could be travel. And coaching in this league is a real grind. As this dynasty, I don't think it's winding down. I still think it has legs for the next 2 to 3 years because I think Steph is, I think at some point they could go to Steph and say, listen, we're going to have you play 60 games. That's what you're going to play in the regular season. You pick your spot. I think that's the next step, and that may be next year because shooters can last a lot longer than like a Westbrook who's a hyper-athletic guard, and they lose the athleticism, not the same guy. Steph can play for the next 5 years and hit jumpers. The key is 26 minutes, 58 games. They're not quite there yet. But let me ask you about Steve Kerr. He defended Draymond and has before. In fact, it's very interesting to me this year particularly. He has been so positive about Draymond publicly, gone out of his way publicly, so much so that I notice. Where do you think Kerr is at with the dynasty, himself, Draymond, the age, Bridge? Where is he at when you cover him nightly?
He seems to be in a place where he like kind of likes the challenge of coaching, right? Like it seems like he likes the struggle of training young guys and teaching them, except he don't really play them. Like it's kind of weird. When he talks, it sounds different than it looks, right? He'll say, "Oh, this young guy's really developed. I love Moses Moody. Moses Moody, great." And Moses Moody doesn't play. I think the decisions with the roster at the beginning of the year kind of created a chasm that they're going to have to figure out in the offseason. Like, here's the other thing: is Bob Myers coming back? Bob Myers doesn't have a contract. Right. That could be. I mean, we're looking at Draymond as like, what is Draymond going to do? Bob Myers might be the domino that changes things. And then, like you said, Steve's got so many interests. If it gets too different, does Steve stick around? Steve can go do whatever he wants. That's one of the things I love about Steve. Like, he's like, yo, I can leave tomorrow. I'll be great. Like, my life is good, right? Like, it's fine.
I've known Steve forever. Steve's on a short list of the smartest people that have ever been in this league. He's got a million interests.
And it's like he just has that comfort in himself where it's like where other people are making decisions to keep a job. Steve is like, yo, I'm gonna do what I think is best. And if you want to fire me. But I got 11,000 rings, so I'm good. There was definitely a thing between the front office and the coaching staff. Like, no, not playing Wiseman, not playing Kuminga, not playing Moody. Right, playing two-way guys over him. Like, he seems to enjoy this position of we got to do what's best for us, and I'm just going to coach how I want to coach. It's got to be pretty freeing, but the owner is like, yo, I'm investing in all these young players. Like, we need to prepare for in 5 years. So when you talk to him, when you hear him, he sounds like a coach who's kind of, this is how you build. We're building something, like we're growing. But then when you see him like coach, he's like, yo, I'm trying to win. I'm running guys I think can win. But it's interesting. He's so like at peace with himself. I think just about everything he does, there's a sense of comfort to it, right? Like even when if you're critical of Steve and he brings it up to you, it's not in a how could you say that? He's like, yeah, let's talk about it. Sure, there's criticism, right? Like, I'm gonna talk to you about it and it's fine because I already know who I am, right? So it's good. It's a weird space to be in because the owner is like, why aren't you playing Wiseman? Why aren't you playing Kuminga? And he's like, yo, I'm trying to win. And I do what I want because I'm Steve Kerr.
Well, I also think if you look at the play, I've been saying this on the air recently. When they bring players in, there's a common thread why they work, and it's not offense. Iggy works. He's a willing defender. KD worked, a willing defender. Wiggins worked, a willing defender. D'Angelo Russell didn't. Like, you got to play defense. Steve Kerr may have been a three-point shooter. We may view this as an offensive dynasty, but if you're not willing to put your body out there This shit ain't going to work. When I watched Wiseman, I never thought he was a fit. I also think this is a very heady offense. It's a catch and react offense. I think it's really hard for
Yeah,
young
that's the key.
players.
Yeah.
And I watch almost every Warrior game to some degree, or I'm all over the box score in the highlights. Shit, man, this is not remedial stuff. To some degree, could I not defend Steve Kerr and say it's probably the most complicated offense in the league?
It's definitely advanced algebra trig, right? maybe calculus in some sense. You have to have played basketball to understand. Like it's a lot of little stuff. He's always talking about quick decisions, right? You got 0.5 seconds to make a decision. Decide what you're gonna do. That's just not how young players roll, man.
That's right.
That's not. And the unique part about all this is the players they selected was basically a pivot. It was like, all right, Steph is hurt, Klay's out. We have no idea what the dynasty is going to be or if it's what we're going to be in the future. They went 15-50. Remember, they didn't even make the bubble. They draft Wiseman because that's like, all right, we have to figure out how we're going to play now without these generational talents. Steph comes back and he's like, oh, yeah, y'all, I'm still Superman. And now it's like, wait a second, let's continue playing how we play. And his first year back was a bunch of dudes around him who didn't know how to play with him, like Kelly Oubre, Brad Wanamaker, right? Those type of guys. They had to like say, all right, let's cater this thing around Steph. But they got these young guys who they aren't playing like that. They're not like, hey, let's get Steph open. Let's make quick decisions. Let's move the ball. Let's flare screen and read and react. Like you got to be smart. It was just a bad mix, right? And it's hard to say Steve is wrong. If you watch these guys play, there's a school of thought is like, hey, give them time, right? Put them out there. They'll figure it out. This is what young players get. They're normally on a bad team. You get to just roll out there and look terrible for a while. And eventually you get it. But like if you're watching them, you can see it's not working, right? If you're Steve Kerr and you got a responsibility to Steph Curry, to Klay Thompson, to Draymond Green, you can't be putting guys out there who don't know where to go. So it was a bad setup. They were ready to pivot. It was going to be old school, Colin. It was going to be the big man who could run the floor and catch the ball in the paint, right? You got Kuminga finishing at the rim. A traditional, like they were going to pivot. They wanted a big man. They never had that. It was Zaza Pachulia, David West, and Andrew Bogut, centers who didn't score. They were like Wiseman, all right, this is the new era. This is Chase Center, right? We're going to have a big man. And Steph came back and blew that all up. And they weren't prepared to switch back. So that's been the big riff. But Steve's clearly like, listen, man, we won championships with the way we play. So we're running this. It's like Novocaine. You just keep give it time. It always work.
Finally, are you shocked at how good Klay has played this year?
Only because I didn't think he could get there. So it's like, hey, these dudes aren't young, Colin. They're not 27, not 28. Like they're 30-something. The shocking part is just how petty and determined they are, how stubborn, right? It's like, that's a stubborn dude. Klay, he's like, I don't care what y'all say. I'm going to be Klay again. And at times, it just did not look like it. It did not look like, even Steve Kerr was talking about, hey, man, you're about the age where it's time to change the game a little bit. Post-ups, fadeaways, like chill on the old Klay. And then he go out and give Booker 33 in the first half, right? Like he's that stubborn. Like I don't care. Like it's actually kind of amazing when you think about it. Like these dudes are old, and a little bit has to do with the modern times, right? Players are playing longer. The load management. This is where it pays off in situations like this, right? This is what the trainers and the scientists are saying. This is why you do it because look, a guy can come back from 2 injuries and regain his career. So we just never seen this before. We haven't seen Bron. Steph dropped 50 at 35. He just turned 35. And he dropped 50 like it was nothing. Right? These dudes are kind of modern marvels in that sense. But there was some times where Klay didn't look like he would get back. And it was hurting the team. Right? It was hurting the team because he's trying to show you I still got it, right? It was like you know how you get out there and you try to do them old moves you used to do back when you was dancing. When the last time you break dance? You're like, no, I still got it. I still got it. Then you throw out your back. Like Klay used to have those type of moments. No, I still got it, and he's missing, right? Oh no, game 6 Klay, and it's like, hey, dude, you're 4 for 20. So you
Yeah.
didn't know he would get back here. And then he's like, has a stretch where he goes nuts, absolutely nuts. And he looks like the old Klay again. Like, I respect the stubbornness. That dude, he told us he was going to be back, and we didn't believe him, but he's back.
Marcus Thompson, as always, enjoy the roadie. Great seeing you again, buddy.
You don't break dance, do you? You're done, right?
No. Although you get a cocktail in me, shit gets wild.
Hey, man, 2-step in the name of love. That's it. Just 1, 2. We at that age, Colin. Just 1, 2. That's it. Sway with the beat. Don't be doing too much.
Good seeing you, man.
All right. Peace out.